My name is Kara.
My name is Lily.
My name is Peyton.
And this is our question documents presentation. So a question document is a term used by forensic examiners to describe a document that's being analyzed to see if it's authentic or not. Some of the most common question documents include driver's licenses, passports, letters, checks, or contracts. And then question documents are all oftentimes involved in forgery cases, con games, gambling, and embezzlement.
So some of the history that goes along with the question documents. As the general public became more literate with the advancement of education, writing became more and more important. With this came the necessary restriction and authentication process used by authorities. Attorneys used penmen to examine the documents using side-by-side comparisons. In the late 19th and 20th century, Alfred Dreyfus case was very popular and it caused much turmoil. Due to this, a man named Albert Osborne, an American handwriting expert, organized a meeting of other penmen to create a basis of handwriting knowledge being used for a court of law.
So the class and individual characteristics of handwriting. Class is when people who have learned how to write using the same type of writing styles. So for example, the way the pencil is held, whether the person is left-handed or right person, would be class characteristics. And then for individual, those are characteristics that make the writing style unique to him or her. So this includes skill level, the intensity of pressure used while writing, or the slant at which the instrument is held.
So characteristics that are used to make comparisons, there's several that are used. So certain specimens are compared to the material being looked at, one of which could be the ink and the machine used to transfer that ink. So there are some large databases, for example, the International Ink Library in the United States, that contain a wide variety of materials to compare handwriting to, which can help narrow down the search as well. So some machines such as a VSC can help detect differences in ink as well. And then again, certain individual characteristics can help narrow down the search as well.
So standards for writing handwriting. As of right now, there is no standard level of correspondence that must be reached for a document to be considered a match or a non-match. Each individual examiner makes the call using his or her best judgment.
So how reliable is handwriting analysis? So the most significant shortcoming of handwriting analysis as a science is the fact that it is ultimately subjective, and its acceptance in the scientific community and as evidence in the court has historically been kind of shaky. Only recently, as the training of analysts has become more standardized and certification procedures have been put into place, has handwriting analysis started to gain more acceptance. However, the results of handwriting comparison are not always accepted as evidence in a court case.
So what is an exemplar? An exemplar is handwriting used as a standard for comparison with the document in question. So there are two types. One is dictated or requested, then the other is undictated or collected.
So to explain the techniques used to analyze examples, it must be understood that a non-destructive approach is with visible light microspectrometer. And the U.S., like we had talked about before, the U.S. Secret Service has an ink analysis program that has a library of over 6,000 inks that can be used for a point of reference when comparing the two different writing samples. And chemical tests of ink are also done in order to discover the ink solubility, the paper chromatography, and the thin layer of chromatography. And this is all performed on printed or written material.
So besides matching signatures, there are several other things that document examiners can determine. They can determine whether or not a document such as a passport, ID, or bank statement are inauthentic by looking at the type of ink and paper that were used. They also help determine whether or not a piece of art is fake. They can do this by examining the paint pigments and the canvas that was used.
So an example of a case that was solved using the principles of document analysis is the case of Robert Durst. He was suspected of murdering Susan Berman ever since her murder in 2000. There was no physical evidence tying him to the case except the letters that were exchanged between the two of them. So another letter was sent to the police at the time of the killing. And then both used identical block form writing with all capital letters. It not only held information only the killer would have known, but also shared some misspelling. For example, of Beverly Hills, it was misspelled in both of them, so it linked the two together.
So, two different claims that we talked about in class was one, handwriting evidence alone should be sufficient to convict when there is no other corroborative evidence, and then the second is that handwriting should be used alone to prove whether or not someone is guilty. And that's it.
That's it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.